All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Up, down, up, down. 'Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make 'em say that.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to week 10 as we get into our predictions for this week. So, again, the season is flying by. 9 weeks down. Some of us are dealing with a lot of success, like Ian at 7-2. And, of course, some of us are opposite of that with 2-7. So, before we start and get into any of the predictions, let's talk about the standings and our record. So we talked already a week or two ago or so. We kind of broke it down on probably what good looks like, or what, where you need to be right to make the playoffs. And we kind of drew the line at 7-7. We said there probably will be some teams at 7-7 that make that, sixth spot and have a chance to make the playoffs, but they definitely need more points than anybody else they might be tied with. But if you're less than 7-7, less than 500 at the end of the year, there is a darn good chance, and probably a very high chance, that you will not make the playoffs. So keep that in mind. You can't have any more than 7 losses. So we're looking at you, Jeremy, Will. You both are at 2-7. You gotta win this week. You need the win, because if you drop to 2-8, again, the season's not over. There's still a lot to play for. And remember, we have a fun, bracket challenge for those that don't make the playoffs, and you're still fighting for the number 1 pick. And you're still in a keeper league, so there's still a lot of, ads that you can do to keep your interest in. But of course, if the reason you're in this league is much more than listening to me talk and my music selection and, all that kind of fun, you might be in it for the money. And unfortunately, if you don't make the playoffs, you're not in it for the money anymore. But, again, a lot still to play for even beyond that. But that's what our focus is really this week. Because right now, everybody, based on mathematics, is in playoff contention. But that definitely could change after this week. So if we look at the rankings once again, I know we do this every week, and I'm getting kind of tired of giving Ian all this recognition, but we'll do it again. Ian continues to be number 1, best record, most points for 3 teams right behind him. At 6-3 with Clint and Dez and Jay, all in really good position, again, to make the playoffs. If what we're saying is, 7 losses, let's say 6 losses probably secures you in. We have 5 weeks left. They're in a really good spot where they could actually have a mini losing streak and still be okay. Let's see, 3 teams in at 5-4, myself, John, and Jake. Kind of the same situation now. Like, we have, 5 weeks left, right? Week 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 5 weeks left to go. For us, 3-2 is probably what we need to be over the next 5 weeks. 2-3 would put us at that 7-7 mark, and you don't want that. So 3-2, it's not that impossible of what to do. Again, even if you have a couple of weeks based on buys and things like that you struggle. When we start moving down a little bit lower, though, the pressure's on. Especially for, let's say Sean, who's 4-5, knowing that he really only wants 1 more loss. He needs to finish strong. Teams then like Adam and Josh, you're not hurting like what Will and Jeremy are, but kind of the same thing. Like, ideally, you want to win out to secure a playoff spot, which is, not impossible. Definitely you can. We have some playoff win streaks going on right now for teams that just have gotten kind of lucky on the matchups they played and bye weeks and certain bench players that they put in that actually have performed and things like that. So definitely a possibility to still, put together a win streak and honestly win out the rest of the season and make the playoffs. So, and then we already talked about Will and Jeremy and how they really need a win this week. So, fantastic. Let's jump into then the matchups. So, I actually started with Josh and Jay. We'll get to Ian and Will in a little bit. So, Josh and Jay. Josh sitting at 3-6. Jay sitting at 6-3. Jay is comfortable with where he's at right now. He's expected to win based on what they're picking for it. If we actually look at the breakdown, I feel that quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end are all pretty much a toss-up. Quarterback, pretty even. Wide receivers, pretty even as well. Tight end, very even. That's, of course, I'm expecting that Josh is going to sub out Collins. And if we look at his bench, he's got a couple of options. Probably Ayuk, who's projected the most for that. So when I put all that in there, and that actually would give Josh some extra points, which would make their predicted score pretty darn close. I'm going to give Josh the edge, of course, on running back, and we typically do because he's got McCaffrey and Pollard. All that being said, it's darn close between these two teams. So when it comes down to then who is going to pull out the win, I'm giving it to Josh. One, Josh needs the win. So I feel like a lot of us are behind the teams like that like are fighting to get in. We hate to see anybody fall out of playoff contention already. We want this to be very competitive. Jay can, it doesn't matter if he loses. It really doesn't affect his rankings and score or to make the playoffs as of right now. Well, 2 or 3 losses in a row definitely would, but he could absorb this loss right now and still just be fine. Josh needs that win. Josh, I'm putting my faith in to you to win this week. I know NASCAR's done. You've got, your focus now can be on fantasy football and watching your team. And I don't know, you may have to work over the weekend and so on, but if it helps, I'll make sure I watch for you on Sunday. I'll be rooting for you, especially for Jacksonville, who's, I've got a Jacksonville player on my team and so on. But anyways, Josh, you're getting the win this week. You're going to stay. That would move you 4-6, still in an okay spot as long as you really keep winning out. Next on the list, then I've got Jake and Jeremy. Jake at 5-4, Jeremy at 2-7. Like we just got done saying, like Jeremy can't afford a loss. To drop to 2-8 really would put him, unless something crazy happens, out of the playoff picture for the rest of the year. Between these two, they're predicted very, very close. Really, I have on here every single position I actually feel like it's going to be close. And it may be a couple of points, one way or the other. But I feel every single position, as we're kind of seeing on here, is going to be a toss-up between the two teams here. I'm giving the win this week to Jake. And it's not a bias because he's my brother. It's mostly because he's got a lot of Lions on his team. And you know what? I'm putting my faith in the Lions this week. So he's got Goff and Montgomery and the defense. And I actually think all 3 of those positions could score above their projected, which would then, of course, would be enough to give him the win. And then with Jeremy, I just don't know. I mean, poor Bijan Robinson, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. This could be the week he goes crazy, and maybe if he does, that would give Jeremy the edge, but I haven't seen it, and I can't expect it to. They're playing Arizona. This would be the spot for it to happen, right? But I'm not going off of that. I'm going off the Lions, and my faith in the Lions, and I'm giving Jake the win this week. Next, then, I've got Sean versus Dez. Sean at 4-5. Dez at 6-3. Again, kind of what we talked about earlier. Dez could absorb the loss and it not really affect too much. Sean really needs the win to stop a losing streak. And here's what's funny. I don't remember how many weeks ago it was, 3-4 weeks or so on. Maybe it wasn't even that far. Maybe it was only a couple of weeks, right? I did a mid-year review. We did some rankings. We gave out grades, and then we talked about playoff predictions. And I picked Sean to make the playoffs. As soon as I did that, holy crap, his luck changed. And now he's struggling. It's just funny how for some of you, you need me every single week to hate on you and hate your team and call you out on these videos and say you're not going to win and your player that you picked and just all of that. You need that in order, apparently, for motivation to win. Because as soon as I put faith in you, it seems like you guys just suck. And I don't know why that is. If that's the kiss of death, it could be all of that. But I'm almost thinking if you really need a win for the week, you almost need to text me ahead of time and say, do not pick me to win. Don't do it. Go against me. That's the only shot I have. Because if you put any kind of faith in me, like I did for Sean, then he struggles. And you know what? It's going to continue this week. I think Dez has too strong of a team. He's already predicted a ton of points more than what Sean's going to have. I've got quarterback and running back as kind of like a toss-up. I'm giving Dez the advantage in wide receiver and running back, but I also think, though, too, I do think Mixon. Right now, Cincinnati's banged up. I know I'm watching it based on their wide receivers and how that's going to turn out and so on. I could see this game being very heavy, leaning towards Mixon on the ground, a lot of those dump off passes and so on. So I think Mixon by far outscores predictions and gives the win to Dez. And not only the win, I'm predicting this as my blowout of the week. I think it's going to be at least the 20 points that we see on here, if not more. So, sorry, Sean. Again, nothing personal, but I just think Dez has got you this week. So, moving back up, the one that when I was doing my breakdown, I don't know how I missed, but then I've got him now in the 4th spot here. So, that's Ian versus Will. Number 1 team versus one of our 2-7 teams. 7-2 for Ian, 2-7 for Will. Will needs to win by far. He's not going to get it. I just don't see a way. If you scroll down, and I don't know how much you guys actually look at other teams, but I mean, you got to feel for Will. You scroll down his team. His team is loaded with IR, out, bye weeks. It seems like every single week he's just got a lot of those on his team. And it's just destroyed him throughout the year. 2 of his main running backs have gone down. 1 for the season. 1 hopefully should be back this week, which will help because he's got Mostert on bye. It's been a tough year for Will. So, and on the opposite side, Ian hasn't had that bad luck. Ian's been pretty lucky with the players he has and their performance and where he drafted them. And even Jones has gone down for part of the season, but now he's back and giving the bulk of the workload. So Ian continues to be lucky. And unfortunately, Will is getting all the bad luck in the league. So with that being said, Ian's going to win. And not only win, I do think this is going to be another blowout for this week. Again, sorry, Will. That's just looking at the numbers. Ian team is super strong. And just the fact is when you play Ian, your teams just don't perform. It's happened all year long, and I don't see that being any different in this matchup. So Ian gets the win. Next one, we've got Clint and John. Clint at 6-3, John at 5-4. Clint could, easily absorb a loss and not bother him too much. John in the same spot where I am, you don't want to drop to 500. You want to keep above 500. You want to go and, continue the win streak or so on. So if we look at the breakdown, I'm giving Clint the advantage, quarterback and running back. John already started Bryce Young. That sucked. Didn't turn out for him. Didn't have a great game at all. I mean, he played Chicago, so you would expect, this would be his breakout game for the year and so on. But unfortunately, it wasn't. He didn't throw as many interceptions this time, but just did not have many yards. Not a ton of rushing yards, no touchdowns. That definitely hurt. Running back-wise, Eckler, especially against Detroit, I could see him utilized a ton. Gus Edwards just continues to get touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. Probably one of the best pickups of the year, free agent-wise. I'm sure at the end of the year, I'll kind of do some rankings on that. Like, what was the best pickup? What was the best waiver move? But that's probably definitely one of them. Based on, he may not be projected a ton of points every week, but geez, it seems like he gets all the touchdowns for that team. Tight end, I said, is a toss-up between, and I think it definitely will be. For wide receiver, I'm giving that advantage to John. And with that, I think it's going to be a really close matchup. I definitely think so based on, what is already projected. And I know they have Clint projected to win, but I don't see it going that way. I actually think John gets the win this week. For really one main reason, I believe in his wide receivers. I think Lamb is going to have a huge week. They play the Giants. It's one of those rivalry games, and I could just see, and it could be a blowout. But I think if it is a blowout where Lamb doesn't play the entire game, it's because he already has 2 touchdowns and 150 yards, and he had a really good game. And I think Pittman is also going to have a really good game as well. So I see his wide receivers actually scoring above projection. I think that's going to give him the win. Clint, don't worry about it. If you drop to 6-4, you're still in a good spot. You're still fine. You have points for on your side, so you can easily absorb the loss. But John really needs to win. And I feel that John is actually going to get the win this week. So congrats, John. You also could move the 6-4. Last matchup then, of course, is between myself and Adam. I continue to say that I still think Adam has the best team out there on paper. If you look at it, he's just had a bunch of bad luck. And of course, this week he's dealing with buys. which really hurts him. He's got the Eagles on bye and Cooper Kupp on bye, and I'll take it. Like, I'm not going to argue playing against one of the strongest teams in the league when a lot of their talent is on bye. And of course, what I'm also watching, and I know Adam is too, is right now Chase is questionable. That would definitely hurt his team. It would hurt my team a little bit too because I have Burrow, and that would take away one of his top targets. But I think that would probably hurt Adam a lot more than it would hurt me because then he would have to really look at who he has for an option to replace him. Right now, Beckham on his team or possibly picking up a free agent because that's all he's got for that. So definitely keeping an eye on that. I'm giving myself the advantage for quarterback, Burrow over Murray. Running back as well, Foreman, that was a last-minute decision on was I starting Foreman on Thursday, was I not? And I'm glad I did. He didn't have a ton of yards, but when you get that touchdown, 80 yards, Bears just a mess, but I'll take the garbage numbers anytime when a backup running back will get you 17 points. I give my advantage for the tight end. Komet only had 9.6 points. I'm assuming Laporta will at least have more than that. Wide receivers, I'm saying it's kind of a toss-up. I do have, with my bye week as well, I do have Brown on bye. But, I'll take it. I think it actually hurts Adam more because he's got Hurts and Swift both out because of the bye weeks. So all that being said, long story short, I'm saying that I get the win. I know it's showing that I should win by double digits here. I don't know if it'll be that crazy. I think it will still be kind of close. My team doesn't like to always perform as much as it should, score as many points it did last week, and that's why I was super excited for that, but that's not typical. So I get the win. I would move to 6-4, Adam. You take the loss, you move to 3-7, but again, not out of it by any means. Hopefully then, right, you're through injuries, you're through bye weeks, and you have a chance. Still, your team could be back at full strength, and then you go on a win streak, you don't lose, and you have some really, really good weeks. You move up the ladder for points 4, and then you're still in the playoffs. So, well, there is our breakdown of all 6 matchups this week. Definitely, I know some of you really need the wins to move up or to stay in playoff position. Some of us, I don't want to say some of us, I'm not one of them. Some teams, could take a loss this weekend and not hurt them too much. But of course, all we want to do is win, 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 no matter what. And that was why we picked this song for. And hopefully it gives you a little bit of motivation going into this weekend with your teams that you can pull out the win and continue in the playoff hunt. So, all right, good luck, everybody, with this week, and we'll talk to you later.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get it up. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Up, down, up, down. 'Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there.
Heat in the kitchen, hot on the stove, water getting boiled, dope being sold, Snoopy in the hookie, system overload. I've been running this rap game since I was 20 years old. I hung with the worst of them, bust till I burst them up, floss them up, toss them up, harder way, close them up. Pardon me, I'm bossing up, pressure up, bless you, bro, don't mess with us. We like the U in the 80s, back to back, set a track, hit the lick, get it back, get the trick, jump the track, bitch, I want my money back. Time and time again, while I'm sipping on this gin, Al Davis said it best, just win, baby, win.
All I do is win, win.